Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. You join us here this evening for round number 5 of the Euro Series. It is the finale of the Euro Series here this evening, and you join us virtually in Sarno in Italy, specifically the Circuito Internazionale Napoli. That's where you join us here today, and we have got a number of drivers joining us here this evening. And a select few of those are battling for the championship. Of course, we're at the end of the 5-round season, so a lot of work, a lot of time and effort has gone into this championship. And like we say, it doesn't get much closer than it does tonight. There is the full Esports Race calendar from 2026. And we're now getting into that final column there on the right-hand side. Round number 5 of the Euro Series here this evening. And then we'll have 3 more KartSim Champions of the Future Esports events to finalise the year over the next couple of months. So we've got about a month or so wait once again until we head through into round number 4 for the International Series. Then we'll head to Muscat in Oman. And then in November, the 2 final rounds for the International Series, Al Ain in the UAE and Al Fassan also in the UAE. So, looking forward to those final rounds of the International Series. 3 more rounds of that to come. So, in 2 of our series, the UK series, of course, is already done and finished. You can go back and look on the Champions of the Future YouTube channel and the KartSim YouTube channel. Watch back those streams, as the championship was an exciting one. But a certain Warwick Milam was rather dominant, to say the least. Now, this evening, we're coming to the end of the Euro Series, but we're only about halfway through that International Series, so it's not a bad time to be getting yourself stuck in to KartSim Champions of the Future Esports, whether that be a viewer or whether that be as a racer as well. You can get involved by purchasing the KartSim Champions of the Future pack over on the KartSim website. That basically then acts as your entry to the series as well. All you have to do is get involved in pre-qualifying. There is pre-qualifying for every live-streamed event, all the details for which you can find over on the KartSim social media. So if this looks appealing to you, want to get stuck in and have some fun in some virtual kart racing, the elite level of karting esports this is, purchase that pack and get yourself in for those final 3 rounds of the International Series later on over the next couple of months. Like we say, though, this evening there is one focus and one focus only, and that is for the championship here in the Euro Series. And oh my goodness, it is mighty close, ladies and gentlemen, very close. 9 points it is separating our top 3 drivers in the championship going into today, and it's been a topsy-turvy season, not only for those 3 at the sharp end of the championship, but to be fair, for everyone in this series. There's not a single driver in the Euro Series that's had a clean run of things, that's had consistent podium finishes, for example, that's had lots of points flying in. It's been a smattering here and there between different drivers, and that is why it is so close as we come into this evening's action. Timo Rupen leads the standings coming into tonight. 279 points for Timo Rupen. The driver you see on your screens at the moment is our driver in 2nd place in the standings. Warwick Milam has already signed, sealed and delivered a UK Series win about a month or so ago now. We watched him take the spoils back at Wilton Mill. But he's looking to wrap up a 2nd KartSim Champions of the Future Esports title. He's going to want to have that by his name. He'll make it 2 from 2 in 2026 if he can do that. And then his whole focus will be doing the triple over in the International Series later on this year. But as I say, tonight is the closest battle of all 3 of our series. Warwick Milam, as I say, drove away with it in the UK Series. He's trying to do something similar at the moment in the International Series. Here in the UK Series, it's where it's been a little bit more topsy-turvy. Different race winners at every one of our 4 races so far this season. Round number 1 went to Alexis Chenalet. Round 2 went to Warwick Milam. Round 3 went to Timo Rupen. And round 4 went to Joshua Bailey. So plenty of different drivers involved in this esports season here in the UK Series. And only a few of them on the chopping block this evening, looking to steal away the championship. So, drivers into practice at the moment then 15 minutes of practice for our drivers this evening to contend with, and then it will be into a 10-minute qualifying session, and then following that, a 12-lap race to decide the season and to decide the championship. Well, as we press on towards that then, Alex Zicki is your fastest driver out there at the moment. So Alex Zicki, very quick. Now Alex has secured himself 2 third places in rounds so far this season. One at round 1 back at Le Conquer and one at round 3 at Mulsanne. Alex Zicki, well, he's looking pretty pacey so far this evening, isn't he? Purple, purple, purple continues. Alex Zicki continuing to find more time, isn't he? And he's continuing to gap the rest of the field. He's already half a second ahead of second place at the moment, which is Marvin Faber. Good to have Marvin joining us for the first time here this evening. Same for Louis Scharnhorst as well. New name to the list there in Louis Scharnhorst. So Faber and Scharnhorst joining us here this evening. They went to 2nd and 3rd, but they've immediately been shuffled back to 4th and 5th. As I say that, Scharnhorst now jumps up to 3rd place. Bailey's to 4th, and Miller is to 2nd place. So Ethan Miller getting right stuck in with this as well already here in practice, looking to set the pace and see what he can get out of this race weekend. Warwick Milam, though, still there in 6th place, but purple sector 2 for Warwick Milam. He's starting to clamber back this pace now, isn't he? And the young driver goes to 2nd place. Warwick Milam within 0.08 of that fastest time set by Alex Zicki. But we saw, as we just looked away from him, it was a few purple sectors already for Alex Zicki. He's clearly finding the time in sector number 1. That was the only sector there that Warwick Milam wasn't purple in across that lap, and that was why he didn't get provisional pole in this session. Of course, we're not searching for provisional pole, but at least the lead in the session here at the end of practice. But this time, it is a purple Sector 1 for Warwick Milam. He is 100th quicker than that previous Sector 1 set by Alex Zicki, and Zicki is peeling back into the pit lane anyway. Zicki maybe bolting on a fresh set of tyres, or maybe just taking a little breather, having a little sip of water, and darting himself back in, ready for another couple of hot laps. There's all Milam there, a little bit balked as they headed down through the middle section of the circuit. Just almost running into the back of the driver ahead, but was able to bleed off the throttle there and give him a good bit of room. That's good to see across this practice session. Of course, we're searching for times, but equally, they won't amount to anything after the session, so no point in creating enemies when that's not necessary. Although Milam might be feeling a bit frustrated that he was on for a mighty quick lap time there and might have fallen away from him, considering he had to bleed off the throttle on what seemingly is a pretty fast part of the circuit. Down through sector number 3 goes Joshua Bailey. Then it's purple sector 2 for Joshua Bailey. How does this lap sync up? To 3rd place goes Joshua Bailey. 1.5 tenths off of Zicki's time still. So Milam, yeah, that previous lap wasn't it for Milam, was it? I guess partially being held up, and maybe he ended up backing out of that lap anyway, and just deciding to have another crack at it a little bit later on. So Joshua Bailey goes to 3rd then. As I say, he is our most recent race victor. As oh dear, he goes barreling off to the scenery there as I look back up to the screen. Joshua Bailey, your most recent winner, back at Kristianstad for round number 4 of the Euro Series. It was Joshua Bailey who was victorious, Warwick Milam in 2nd place, and Timmy O'Rupen in P3. Now, I'm very surprised, looking at the list of names on the left-hand side of my screen, that I don't see either Timmy O'Rupen or Theodore Tubal. It's a real shame, but also just more surprising than anything, because they've raced all 4 rounds so far this season, and they're in the hunt for the championship, and there's a lot of prizes on offer, even if they were to miss out on the race win this evening, and Warwick Milam did steal it away and get another championship for himself. There's prizes for 2nd and 3rd as well, so I don't really understand why we don't have Timmy O'Rupen and Theodore Tubal out here racing with us this evening, but it's a shame, and like I say, it's their loss. Warwick Milam is here, he's turned up, and he's ready to get stuck in. And well, if he's able to get a half-decent result here in this one, it's looking like he'll be able to wrap up the championship. So we've got Alex Zicki here, he's on 255 points, so that is 18 points back from Warwick Milam going into tonight's racing action. Joshua Bailey, like I say, your most recent race winner here in the Euro Series. He is a further 18 points behind. So what is that? 36 points total. So not a huge chasm of points between Warwick Milam and second in the championship and Lekzicki fourth and Bailey fifth. But equally, it's going to be a tough margin to break through, really, given the pace of Milam. Even if you finish behind those two, he's still not going to drop enough points, really, for them to close up in the standings, which is a real shame. This title fight was looking rather exciting, but it seems as though, with a DNS from Rupert and Tubal, that it might just hand Warwick Milam his second championship of the year, which I know Warwick Milam won't have wanted that either. He won't want an easy run to the line, because Rupert, Tubal, and the likes of Lekzicki and Bailey have been keeping him true for the entire season. And basically, well, not those two, but Rupert and Tubal have left an open goal here for Warwick Milam. Lekzicki's still your fastest, though, in this session. We've got to give him that, and he's just popped in another purple Sector 1, has Alex Lekzicki. So we saw Milam was very close on that previous lap, but then we felt he got maybe balked a little bit by one of our slower drivers out there in the field. And then my assumption was that he was going to go on to another lap and find the fastest time. But that has not happened, to be fair to Alex Lekzicki. That has not happened. He's popped in a purple Sector 1. He's popped in a purple Sector 2. Okay, they're only by hundredths of a second, but still, as they say at Tesco, every little helps. And that is faster for Alex Lekzicki. 1 minute 1.422. So 1 3/4 tenths ahead now of Warwick Milam. So he gained about, what was that? About 1.5 tenths, wasn't it really there, that he gained on that lap over the 3 sectors, which is, I think, the crucial thing to say about that lap. It wasn't that Lekzicki just somehow found a blistering new line through a corner that found him loads of time. That was just little incremental increases throughout the entire lap. All those little extra bit added together to an absolutely storming lap. It was a great Sector 1 for it, Milam, but it's fallen away in Sector 2. He goes back within a tenth of a second of Alex Lekzicki as he does find a purple Sector 3, but clearly something's gone on there in Sector number 2. Not only was he orange, he was nearly 2/10 of a second down. If he could find that kind of margin, I think Lekzicki's going to struggle to close back in. So clearly something's happened through Sector 2, whether it be a mistake or another driver getting involved. He's just gone and found a 10th in Sector number 1, though, ladies and gentlemen. Another 10th of a second found by Warwick Milam in Sector 1. It seemed like the wick was burning in Warwick Milam, but it was burning slowly so far in this session. Well, it suddenly started burning a lot quicker and a lot hotter, hasn't it? He is flying around the circuit now. He finds a personal best Sector 2, but it's still 1.5 tenths slower than Alex Lekzicki. That's amazing. That's Warwick Milam's best Sector 2. How is Lekzicki finding that kind of time in Sector 2? Will it amount to enough, though? It will. Down to 300ths between Alex Lekzicki and Warwick Milam. But you can see there, purple by a tenth in Sector number 1, purple by a couple of hundredths in Sector number 3. But although it was Warwick's best Sector 2, he was still nearly 2/10 of a second off. Well, that is surprising. That is surprising. So Warwick Milam heads back into the pits then. We've got Ethan Miller, who's also headed back into pit lane, maybe just to bolt some fresh if I can get my words out, bolt some fresh rubber on for these final few minutes of the session. That's boot loop there, I don't know what happened. Looks like he's still leading. Milam, as we say, back into the pits then. Ethan Miller has returned back onto the black stuff. He's still just over 2/10 clear at the moment this evening. Joshua Bailey in 4th place. His dominance back at round number 3 was very impressive, Joshua Bailey, because it wasn't just a case of things occurred in the race that meant Warwick Milam got shuffled back and other close drivers got shuffled back. Milam and Bailey got to the front pretty early on, and Bailey was able to manage the gap and just keep Warwick Milam at arm's length. It was mightily impressive, that performance from Joshua Bailey last time out. But sadly at the moment it doesn't look like he's able to continue on that kind of trajectory and carry that momentum through to this round here at the finale, at round number 5 here at Sarno. I mean, granted, he's only 400ths off of the time set by Ethan Miller, but then we've got a couple more tenths to find to close in to the likes of Lekzicki and Milam. I'm interested to see, though, if this gap between the two of them, if they're similar on paces to what they are in this session, in qualifying next time out, when we get into the race, that is going to be very, very interesting as to how those two decide to dice down through the first couple of corners, because it's not the most simple. You're seeing here this lap from Warwick Milam, so you see that very fast right-hander, then slowing down for that kind of double right, and then we go into some tight and twisty stuff. So through those first few corners, you can hang it side by side, but there's got to be a moment where one of you decides to be the one to drop behind, and if neither of you decides to be the one to drop behind, suddenly both of you are likely off into the scenery and off into the green stuff, which I usually find doesn't have the most amount of grip. Luckily for them all out here today in Italy, it's bright blue skies, sunny skies here in virtual Italy. The same can't be said in the UK here this evening, but at least we can travel to virtual Italy and enjoy a little holiday here on the kart track here just outside of Napoli. Less than a minute left to go then here in practice, and all 10 of our drivers out there on circuit at the moment, all setting lap time. So we've got about 8.5 tenths it is between the top 8, and then a further half a second back to the 9th place driver, who I believe is another new name. Indeed it is, Lorenzo Abid. So welcome Lorenzo. They're in P9, and Benjamin Nascimento, we've seen him in a few rounds so far this season, so good to see Benjamin returning this evening for more virtual kart racing action once again here, courtesy of KartSim and Champions of the Future. Like we say, don't be sad that it's coming to an end, be happy that it happened. This year has been awesome for esports karting racing action. It truly has been a revolution for karting esports, this has, and I'm sure KartSim and Champions of the Future will continue on creating bigger and better competitions as we mean to go on. Not that this year hasn't been fantastic in and of itself, but continued improvement that I see going on behind the scenes at KartSim. I'm sure there's just going to be more and more hitting your screens, and more for you to be getting involved with as well. Well, that was a very different lap time there for Warwick Milam. Found the time in Sector 2. He's found purple Sector 2 by half a tenth, but that time it was Sector 3 that fell away from him, and he still didn't find a personal best time. 700ths off the back of Alex Zicki now. So Zicki finding a bit of extra time as well there in the dying moment. So I think it is pretty close here between Alex Zicki and Warwick Milam. We saw it was Joshua Bailey who sort of showed up to fight Milam back at round number 4 at Kristianstad. Well, this evening he seems to have passed the baton on to Alex Zicki. Bailey comes to the flag, nearly flips it over the curb there at turn 1, but he stays in 4th place. Alex Zicki then your fastest in practice, Warwick Milam within a tenth, as he was for a lot of that session, but couldn't quite pip Alex Zicki to the fastest time. Ethan Miller then behind them in 3rd place, Joshua Bailey in P4 here today at round number 5. Louis Scharnhorst in 5th place, followed by Henry Hales, then Marvin Faber and Victor Gerasim, followed by Lorenzo Abid and Benjamin Nascimento. Those are your 10 drivers out racing with us this evening, and soon enough we'll see them back out onto the circuit and ready to go for qualifying. You can see there in the counter in the top left-hand corner of your screen, as soon as that hits 10 minutes, the light will go green at the end of the pit lane and drivers will be released. Off they go then, light goes green, and a couple of our drivers dive straight out of the pit lane onto the circuit, and let's see who's able to grab pole position here at the finale for KartSim Champions of the Future Esports for the Euro Series here in 2026. Out onto the circuit go our drivers then, and let's see who finds the time to grab pole position. So off on the outlaps we go then. Leading out of the pit, so we've got Louis Scharnhorst right at the sharp end of the train. Only 3rd place out of the pits then for Louis, and he'll settle in and see what kind of pace he can find. Was decently impressive there in practice, being the fastest of the sort of unknown drivers in the field here. Of course, Henry Hales and Victor Gerasim we do see relatively more often here in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. But Louis Scharnhorst doing a very impressive job straight out the gates, and not too distant from the times of the top 4, who are very much 4 of the drivers who have been dominant throughout this 2026 season. So to be even getting close to their sort of pace is to be commended in your first ever round here in the live stream finals for KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. Onto the hot laps we go then. First hot laps of the day. And Louis Scharnhorst and the two drivers ahead of him will lead us through into this qualifying session then. So Lizicki, Milam, Miller, Bailey, Scharnhorst, Hales, Farber, Gerrison and Abid. They are the ones heading through into this qualifying session. And well, we have just over 8 minutes until we find out who will be taking pole position. Louis Scharnhorst getting it all sorts of crossed up there as he headed down through into sector number 2, that is. Managed to collect it up though, so okay, that's fine. It's only a moment if it all goes wrong, isn't it? He's collected it up, he's carried on, but that might not help for ultimate lap time, at least on this first attempt. To the flag go our first drivers, Ethan Miller with a 1:06. That's a great start for Ethan Miller. Henry Hales, 8.5 tenths off. Louis Scharnhorst is 3/4 of a second off. That's a great time straight out the blocks there for Ethan Miller. A 1:06, very impressive. Marvin Farber goes to now be the quickest of the sort of, as I say, more unknown drivers in the field. Good to have Marvin joining us here this evening. And Joshua Bailey puts himself within 1.5 tenths of that time set by Ethan Miller. We watch and wait for Alex Lizicki and Warwick Milan, though, our two fastest from practice, yet to set a time, and we're 3 minutes in. Lizicki goes to 3rd place. 1.5 tenths off the time from Ethan Miller, and he's straight back into the pit lane as well. Doesn't even set a second lap time. Where does Milan go? Oh, he hasn't started a lap yet. He has been very late into the session, hasn't he? So, on to the first flyer then for Warwick Milan. And we'll wait and see how that one goes. Joshua Bailey, he is now the one heading through. So let's see what Joshua Bailey can do from this one. Well, I think my producer can read my mind, because I was just messaging to say, could I have the sector times? And we've got them on your screen at the most opportune moment. Joshua Bailey, 3 purple sectors in qualifying for Joshua Bailey. And he finds your fastest time. Well, where was Joshua Bailey hiding this in practice? 4th place in practice for Bailey, and he goes top already here in qualifying. We're not that far from half distance here in qualifying already. Lizicki, he goes a little bit faster. He pips Ethan Miller to 2nd place. A 1:01.6 for Warwick Milan. What universe am I living in right now? What must have happened on that lap for Warwick Milan? He's clearly settling in, finding space and finding opportunity. He's got plenty of time to get things sorted out. We've seen he doesn't mind leaving things right till the last dying moments in qualifying, and he can grab it from the jaws of defeat. Well, there you go. Purple sector 1 for Warwick Milan. The second flying lap of the session so far is looking to be a bit more on brand for Warwick Milan here. So 1:04.56 currently the pace from Joshua Bailey. We're a little bit off of what we were in practice at the moment, but not too dissimilar. Impressive that Bailey has found that time. He was not quite that close in practice. Lizicki goes within a 10th. 0.088 of Bailey's time, but he's not gone to provisional pole. It's looking like Milan might, though. To the line goes Warwick Milan. What's the time going to be? A 1:02.96. Great time from Warwick Milan, and that puts him over 1.5 tenths clear then of Joshua Bailey. A lovely time there from Warwick Milan. Found the pace when he needed to, and yeah, like I say, it was a little bit odd to see him that slow on that first flying lap, but I thought that there must be something behind it. Trust the process, John, and yes, I should never have been in doubt, Warwick. I should never have been in doubt. 1:02.96. Goes 1.5 tenths clear of Joshua Bailey. So, it's not even Alex Lizicki the closest challenger now. I say that, though. He's just found a purple sector number 2. He's still 1.5 tenths off in sector 1, though. Green sector 1. So, his personal best, still 1.5 tenths off Milan. He's got to find a beauty here in sector 3. Will it be? To the line goes Lizicki. He goes quicker than Joshua Bailey, but only halves the gap to Warwick Milan. Saying that, though, some positivity for the neutrals is that was a yellow sector 3. The less positivity for the neutrals is it's purple, purple, purple again for Warwick Milan. This time a 1:02.67. Finds literally hundredths there. It was about 2 hundredths he found across 3 different sectors. The consistency from Warwick Milan is incredible. We said that throughout the season, really. Milam has just been metronomic, hasn't he, with his pace. And as we've often seen, he'll break away at the front initially, and we've said so many times, well, I've said so many times this season, about the fact of you've got to beat Milam to turn 1. If he gets through turn 1 in the lead, there's a decent possibility he might win the race. I'd love to go back, actually, and just count and see the percentage times that where Warwick Milam led into the first corner and when he won the race. There were occasions where people fought back or Milam had issues, but a lot of the time, if he got to T1 first, he would just, his metronomic pace was amazing, and he could just pull away from the rest of the field, and it just looked simple from Warwick Milam. It just looked simple. Well, for the moment, he's setting himself up for another race like that, and that's exactly why Joshua Bailey was so impressive back at round number 4. For the fact that he basically gave Milam the Milam treatment. It was amazing from Joshua Bailey. Well, he is not quite your closest challenger anymore, but he's only 200ths off of Alex Zicki. So, okay, both these two are chasing Milam, but at the end of the day, there is also a little sneaky battle here between Zicki and Bailey because, okay, I said it's going to be tough for them. It really has to be a DNF or Warwick Milam, or a DSQ for him to not win the title here this evening. If he finishes the race, I think he's going to take the title. But Zicki and Bailey are very close on points. 18 points between those two. I said it's 18 between Zicki and Bailey. It's then 18 between Zicki and Milam. So Zicki has as much chance of catching Milam as Bailey does catching Zicki. So it's all to play for here this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Purple Sector 2 from Joshua Bailey. Just a shame is Sector 1. It's almost 3.5 tenths off, sadly, for Bailey. Great lap, this one. A 1 minute .667. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. But it stays in 3rd place to Joshua Bailey. I've just spotted the final 2 numbers of 1st and 2nd as well. Oh, my goodness. My brain has been corrupted. Warwick Milam. Similar story to that lap from Joshua Bailey then. Purple Sector 2, but a yellow Sector 1 from Warwick Milam. Just less than 3 tenths again. Again, pretty similar to Joshua Bailey. Similar story from those last 2 laps from those 2 drivers. It is, well, a purple Sector 3, but it's bang on exactly what he'd already set earlier on in the session. That's pretty similar to his last lap, wasn't it? It was about it was only about 200ths quicker in that final sector. It just shows again, backing up my point. Thanks, Warwick. That metronomic pace, very impressive. And Zicki and Bailey are oh so close, but oh so far at the moment in this qualifying session. Within touching distance of that pole, but for the moment, Warwick Milam has got his hands on it. And he's not letting go without a fight. 40 seconds left then in qualifying. For your last qualifying of the year here in KartSim Champions of the Future Esports for the Euro Series. Who's going to take that final pole? Will it be Milam? He's been so dominant in the UK Series. It's the Euro Series where it's all really hotted up throughout 2026. Well, this isn't going to be a quicker one, but he might just set himself up for a final attempt. Milam. Yellow, yellow, yellow on that last one. Joshua Bailey, though, he's not got the opportunity to get round for another one. And neither has Alex Zicki. Zicki's backed off. Zicki is out of the session. He's done. 5 seconds to go. He's not going to make it to the checkered flag. Zicki not going any faster. Joshua Bailey, again, finds a smidgen of time in sector number 2, but it's already gone. The lap's gone in sector number 1. He's lost over 2 tenths in sector number 1. Even if he finds a storming sector number 3, he might be able to pip Zicki, but unlikely he's going to be able to chase down Milam. To the line he goes, and yeah, 1 minute .8, won't be faster. He loses another 3.5 tenths in sector number 3. So Zicki did improve on his penultimate lap before he then slowed down. He did improve by a few hundredths, but still not able to challenge Warwick Milam. Ethan Miller will look for the line as well. But again, similar story, a second lost in sector number 1 for Ethan Miller. And the lap was gone before it even really started. Miller will stay in 4th place then. And I think the rest of our drivers, it will be the same story as well. No movers there on that final lap. Our order was set in stone with a minute or so to go there. Milam, Zicki and Bailey, oh so close but oh so far. No reshuffles between those 3 despite some minor improvements. So for the final round of the Euro Series season, it's Warwick Milam who yet again takes pole position. Alex Zicki will be alongside him on the front row. with Joshua Bailey and Ethan Miller on row number 2. You see those gaps there in the on the right-hand column, how close it was between our top 3. And then only about the same sort of gap back to Ethan Miller in 4th place. Henry Hales is on row number 3 alongside Marvin Farber. Then Libby Scharnhorst and Victor Gerritsen are then on row number 4 with Lorenzo Abid finalising the grid then. 9 drivers taking to the race start here for the finale of KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. The Euro Series coming to a close here tonight. Thank you all so much for joining us across the championship season. It's been really exciting throughout 2026, and like we've already gone over already, this isn't it for the championship season. We do still have those final few rounds for the International Series coming up in the not too distant future. So make sure you subscribe to the KartSim YouTube channel and make sure that you subscribe to the Champions of the Future YouTube channel as well so that you don't miss any of those races to come later this year. And like I say, I'm sure there's going to be big things coming in 2027. So watch this space. Keep your eyes on the KartSim socials and we'll see what plans fall into place. Say that though, we're nowhere near done with 2026 just yet. We wait for our top 2 to join us on the grid then. Once they do, we go to green flag racing action here in Italy for round number 5 of KartSim Champions of the Future Esports Euro Series. You can hear the karts rumbling away on the grid then as those 2 strokes just tick over on those senior X30 karts with the beautiful Champions of the Future livery. You can only get that Champions of the Future livery if you do purchase the Champions of the Future pack over on the KartSim website. It's the only way you're going to get that. If you want your hands on that, go over and invest. All right, let's see how we go then for a race start. We are still waiting for our top 2. Whereabouts are they? Taking a little while here as the rest of our drivers probably getting a little bit impatient here sat on the grid. Thinking, when can we go to lights out, please? Well, then we wait with bated breath. even the simulated driver looked over to the pit lane there and went, where are they? Where are they? I'm sure they will join us soon enough. Right, top 2 then. Very close on pace. I mean, same can be said about our top 3 in that qualifying session and in practice prior to that as well. So anyone's guess between these 3, but as I say, so many times this season, if Warwick Milam has led through turn 1, he's led through to the checkered flag. Let's see if that continues on here tonight then, as our top 2, I believe, have joined us on the grid. There they are. Red lights are on here in Sarno. They go out now. We're racing here in Italy for the finale here of the Euro Series for KartSim Champions of the Future Esports. Good start from our top 2 on the front row. They'll go side by side down through the first couple of corners. But as I said, we'll have to get back into single file through turns 3 and 4. Who will slot back in? I think that is Lixicki to slot back in then. A little bit of side pod to side pod contact there. Nearly gets turned around as the driver there in second place as they head down through to the end of sector number 1. Nice start though. A little bit of argy-bargy there in the background as you saw a bit of dust kicked up by one of our karts as they went slightly off-piste. But a good start to the race then as Aldir second place having a little bit of a wobble as they go onto the grass on the outside of the circuit. But a nice start as the drivers settle into action. So Milam breaking away there nicely. Lixicki there in second place. Ethan Miller in P3. So we've stayed as we were at the sharp end of the order, except for Joshua Bailey. Joshua Bailey has dropped from 3rd to 7th in all of that. It's not been an ideal start for Joshua Bailey. He's got involved in the scuffles early on in this one, and he sends it up the inside there of Lorenzo Abid. Licks the stamp, absolutely stends it. Into 6th place goes Joshua Bailey. But he's already 3 seconds off of your race leader, Warwick Milam. He's got his work cut out for him. But it was Ethan Miller who took a chunk out of Alex Lixicki on that first lap then. You saw Ethan Miller just tried to put the nose up the inside there on a pretty fast left-hander. Wasn't going to work and just caused Lixicki to get all sorts of crossed up. He held it well, but that meant he had to back off the throttle and he lost that momentum all the way down that straight. And that really gave the opportunity for Warwick Milam to extend the gap early on here. And that's why after lap number 1, he's pretty much at a 3/4 of a second gap here between Milam and Lixicki. Lixicki doesn't have Joshua Bailey to sort of work with, though, as they press on ahead. I mean, question is, would they have worked together or would they have ended up fighting each other and just dropped back for Warwick Milo? I don't know. We're never going to know because Joshua Bailey has dropped back early on in this race despite things. So he's back up to 6th, like we say. And what is it, 6/10 now to chase up to the back of Henry Hales. Then we got Hales, then we got Scharnhorst, who's only 1 step off the podium on his debut. That would be mightily impressive, as it's a 1:465 for Warwick Milam at the sharp end of the order. That gap is still the same, though. If I look down the live timing, yeah, it was 3 thousandths of a second difference on the last lap between Milam and Lexicki. It does not get much closer than that, and that again makes it such a shame that Lexicki just had that little bit of scuffling with a couple of drivers there on the first lap, because if they were nose to tail, there might have been a great opening lap battle there between Milam and Lexicki. Sadly not to be, though. Let's see if Lexicki can find more pace as he settles into this race. Let's see if he can find those purple sectors and close up to Warwick Milam. Milam's made a mistake there in sector number 2, almost a 1/10.5 lost, and you saw that on the timing tower on the left-hand side of your screen. We dropped from jumping between 7 and 9/10 and now jumping between 5 and 7/10. So that little bit lost there, but as they settle back into pace again, will Milam just start to extend things once more? To the line they go, and it's a 1:06. So a couple of tenths lost that time for Warwick Milam. Luckily for him, though, Lexicki was 2 thousandths slower. So over the last 2 laps, Lexicki has been 5 thousandths slower in total than Warwick Milam. So the gap has literally stayed identical. But that's with Warwick Milam making mistakes. Once he starts finding that pendulum swinging back and forward once again, I think he might just start to extend this lead gap as he is starting to do now. It's almost back up to a second again. Here comes Joshua Bailey up the inside. Space just about given there by Henry Hales. They'll run side by side through corner exit. Henry just about had the nose in through the left, but Bailey was able to hang it around the outside and takes the place. Into the top 5 goes Joshua Bailey once again then. A bit of time there. He just took to chase up to the back and then find a way past. He's got some more time to find to get back further up the order. Lorenzo Abid is going side by side here with Marvin Farber. So 2 new names to the championship.